2. Hello, everyone. The time is 12:30 in the East Coast in the United States of America on March 12th, 2025. Ken Mide is back. It's been a long time, I think since November, but we are here together in different countries. It's so good to see you, Aolor. Welcome freaking back to the channel. How do you like your new home?
Oh, wow. Hey, thank you so much for asking. This is like a lot of things over the past few months. I would say it has been a place that has taken a lot to get used to, but it's been a wonderful step at every step of the process. Like there's definitely has been a lot to get used to, not currently being in the United States at the moment. Also like kind of doing new professional endeavors at the moment. But hey, at the same time, I've been having a great time. I've been having a great time keeping up with a lot of y'all back there, back in the States. Definitely have had a wonderful time keeping up with how this man here has been holding the fort down, still delivering quality videos. Shout out to Haystack. You two have been absolutely doing some wonderful stuff as well. And it's and hey, I was like, for a moment there, I was gonna start off by say I was actually gonna start off by saying like, hey, yeah, I know what the regular Chris viewers are probably thinking, like, dang, how did Hay dang, when did Haystack get so skinny? Which to anyone who I guess is kind of getting a bit very used to the Haystack show, which is a great show. It's a great show, I'm glad to be back here. I'm glad that we're doing our thing. I mean, geez, I think like the last video we made was well, my contribution to the whole Apple 100 thing, which has been going consistently strong, and I think with so many of the other people you've had on the show, they have done a wonderful job in kind of speaking on their own connections with the music in their lives, and I guess in kind of going into speaking about the music in our lives, let's talk about an album that came out came out at the crack of January, from an artist who, to our regular viewers, you might be familiar with. You might be familiar in the times we have spoken about him. You might even be familiar with when he had previously been on here. Which, oh boy, man, that wasn't that some years ago. But and years later, Mr. Benjamin Booker has finally gifted us with a brand new album, his first album in 8 years, and an album which I have been like very consistent in saying should be on everyone's album of the year list. I think they've been, I think that yes, I know. I guess in terms of like albums that have been really getting attention this year, like I'd say, like, I don't know, perhaps The Weeknd pretty much has it on lock right now.
Who?
Exactly. But yeah, I think Mr. Booker has really delivered something with Lower, an album that okay, myself being a fan of Mr. Booker, I've kind of I wouldn't say I've been there since the I wouldn't say I've been there since the beginning of this production of this album, but I had been aware of talks of how Mr. Booker had new music in the vaults, but his record label, well, his now former record label, ATO Records, they weren't feeling they didn't see the vision, they weren't feeling it, they didn't get the direction he was trying to take things on. And for a while, like a lot of us, it looked as if we did not know where Mr. Booker's artistic pursuits were going to go. And and I had been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate, actually, very shortly after we were so lucky to have him on this show, that he kind of gave us a bit of a slice into what he was cooking up in the vault. And I have to say, the direction that he was kind of teasing with this new music, I was like, man, this is quite frankly, like, it's incredibly fascinating. It's quite unforgettable. And now to see those songs from their origins now, like, fully being out there to the people, I say, you guys have absolutely no idea how lucky you guys are. So I guess let's I guess talk about it. I mean, you've been okay. I know you told me you'd been listening to the album as well. What kind of sticks out about it with you, man?
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking in regards to this review. Um, I took some notes, sure, and
All good.
I maybe listened to the album 2.5 times, and but then I saw your notes, and I think um, I'll start, but I want you to finish. How's that sound?
All good. All good. All good. All good.
Cool.
And
So
we can interject and all that stuff. So yeah. So yeah. I mean, okay. So the opening track, Black
hold on,
Ops.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. I
Okay.
just said I'll start and you finish, babes.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
way less to say, trust me. I am not as confident a writer as you, you know.
Mhm.
So my whole thing is like I did a track by track because um it's way easier. I feel that way.
Mhm.
And there have been a couple interviews that Mr. Booker did, that you can find via Genius, which is in the description of today's stream. And I forgot to include the link to the Rolling Stone article, but it is paywalled. So if you're interested, if you already have a subscription to Rolling Stone, I'll put that there for you too. I got a chance to read it before it got paywalled, and I really like this, like that insight that Mr. Booker provides for us, for anybody who's not explicitly aware of like his lore, if you will. So look forward to that if you have a chance to actually like get into it. Like Laura was about to say, we start with the first track, which is Black Ops, which is spelled in the way that like is more commonly known, for the opposition, for this like, it's AAVE 101 these days. There's even a wrestling faction by the same name in AEW. Shout out Samoa Joe. Um, but when I listen to this song, right, I feel that it sets a great tone for the listening experience. And honestly, I want to hear somebody rap over this production. And I want in the way that like, oh, just keep the chorus in and let people just like go in 16 bars, 3 verses, maybe even keep the bridge. Track 2 is LWA in the trailer park. Like the behind the scenes on this song is kind of disturbing, so I won't say it just in case anyone in the audience is little like squeamish. But the details are in the Genius annotation. The producer is Kenny Segal, who we would know with like groups like Arm and Hammer. And I love the samples in this song, and I love the drums. I think they're awesome. And for me, it kind of feels like Lower is almost like if Blockhead wanted to start a band, from the
Mhm.
guy who works with Atmosphere, the person who put out music by Cave Lights. Track 3 is Pompeii Statues, and I wrote that I was like getting ready for work while listening to this album, and so it kept me company. And I really appreciate music that like keeps you company, that like you feel less alone when you listen to it.
And I feel like Pompeii statue should get some placement in TV or movies. So, hey, Lord, like you may have to make a couple emos or so when the time comes with your own stuff, if that fits the narrative of like your own work. Because I know like you got some ideas cooking in your head. Shout out Nollywood. Track 4 is Slow Dance in a Gay Bar, and I wanted to point out this song specifically because I love the line, I just want someone to see me, because it speaks volumes to me as a person who's like actively thinking about transitioning. And like, not everybody knows that about me. And like, they may find out for the first time listening to this stream. So, hey, text me, call me. I love you. With speaking, the track 5 is Speaking with the Dead. And I think this is the song I like the least. I don't think there's a single bad song on here, but like I feel as if this is like the one I would come back to like the least if I was like listening to like separate tracks or making playlists. Like rest assured, I'm gonna try and find a home for every single song on this album. And but for me personally, this resonated the least with me. But I do love the line, tell me how to live a good life in this evil, evil place. Because that's how I feel right now living in the States. Ooh, bars. And I apologize if this feels like cliche, but the outro to like Speaking with the Dead, it sounds like Nine Inch Nails, and I love that. I don't care that it's cliche. Like, it's like, I love how evocative that sounds. It kind of reminds me of that one Gorillaz track, Every Planet We Reach Is Dead, just like with the way like the song kind of flourishes at the back half. So that was really cool. Very disturbing, very Clipping-esque, if you will. Track number 6 is Rebecca Latimer Felton Takes a BBC. And I just want to say for the record, if you don't know who this woman is and you Google her, the first thing you get is like an overview from Wikipedia, which says, oh, this woman, let me see, let me make sure I'm speaking to the same person. Yeah, it says like, oh, was the first woman to serve in the United States Senate, serving only for one day, a prominent member of the Georgia upper class who advocated for prison reform, women's suffrage, and educational reform. But if you scroll down to the 8th link, you read a prominent suffragist and temperance advocate, but also a white supremacist and advocate of segregation and lynching. And that is very, very, very important information that like platforms like Google want to hide from you. It should be the first thing we hear about, because like these mutts are trying to rewrite history. Don't let these people rewrite history. Pick up a book and this record. Track number 7 is New World, and in short, it might be the best song on the album for me personally. I know like Laura and I have spoken casually on the phone about the record because we were supposed to like get on Streamer a little while ago, but we had some like online stuff to deal with. And like I think we immediately agree about this song in particular. I'll let him like speak more into detail in a second about that. Track 8 is Same Kind of Lonely, and I really, really like the lyrics. But then I'm like, oh, why do I like the lyrics? And so I wrote that I often have to tell myself, or I'll post on like social media, like all I have to do is get through the next day. Because usually when I write that or say it to myself, it means that the relief that I sincerely desire is right around the corner. And like, you know, I was saying this a lot during the winter because like, you know, it's cold and wet. You don't get to see the sun. Now it's springtime here in the EST, and I see the sun more often. And it's like, oh, like I can do this. Like even though I'm lonely, I'm gonna be okay. Even though I have like friends and families and lovers, it's like I go home and I hide in my room all day, and I choose to do that. And like my roommate's like, oh, like you don't hang out with us, and like I'd like to, but like I just can't like seem to break the streak that I've like kind of created for myself since like the lockdown, since like COVID kind of like changed my life. And so like yeah, Same Kind of Lonely. Ooh, that really just like struck me right in the heartstrings. Track number 9 is Show and Tell. And I didn't really have a lot to say about this one, but I do believe that this is a song that should be syndicated on radio. You know, like
Absolutely.
It's like it's very much like it's very straight to the point, and like I feel like it's a great an easy way to like get a person into Benjamin Booker without like I guess getting lost in the weeds, because like most people don't enjoy blues or have no kind of like I guess like nexus point for the genre. So I'm like, if you like, I
Outside
don't
of
know,
like Jack White or something like that.
no,
You
and I
know,
don't, and I do not know, and I do not think that Jack White counts, because Jack White, he appears in like fucking 4 different ways. You know what I'm saying? And like he's not a radio darling in that way. And I'm like, and frankly, like I feel like if you like, oh, you want to get into blues, listen to Jack White. There's just too much content to consume, in my personal opinion. But with a song like Show and Tell, it's like, boom, start here and see like where like your DSP will take you after that. Because like I imagine building a Pandora station with a song like Show and Tell would be very, very interesting. You know, I was thinking to myself yesterday at work that I can't. It's hard to think of like a four fans of for Mr. Booker, because I can't think of a lot of people who do what he does. But like I think the closest person that I can think of that maybe would be adjacent, and I apologize if it's contrived, will be like Gary Clark Jr. or Christone Kingfish. You know what I'm saying? And so like yeah, like
yeah.
if you're
And
if you're
And it should be noted, when we were lucky enough to speak with Mr. Book all those years ago, he had mentioned very much his kind of like, I would say, kind of friendship with Mr. Clark Jr. So
let's
there
go,
definitely
baby.
is a, yeah. So there definitely is a mutual appreciation between the two. Between the two.
You get back into his stuff. It's been a while since I've heard his music. Last 2 tracks we have "Heavy on My Mind," which I wrote. I really like the pre-chorus on that song. I'm gonna pull it back up real quick. I still have like the Genius tab open. I wanted to read y'all the pre-chorus where it says, "If there's hell, then there's heaven. I hope I get there with you. See the way you're feeling. They can never stop it. They may try. I refuse." That, my friends, is love. Real fucking love. So like, move towards that is what I'll say. And I think that because you can get merch for this album release, I would love a pair of like, I don't know, sweatpants or like, like joggers that have like that have like the line, "I want more than a dream," and then like Benjamin Booker on the other pant leg, or like, put that on a shirt or something like that. I would really like something like that, because that's the kind of shit I get tatted on my arm. I ain't gonna lie. And finally we have the track "Hope for the Nighttime." And my only thing about this song is that when you have a song that's like the end of your album, it needs to sound like the end of an album. Like I like it. It's a cool 40 minutes. Like you can put it on like for like you're driving to work, you're getting your day started, and like if this is like the last song I hear before I like open my front door and go to like start my day, I feel motivated after listening to a song like "Hope for the Nighttime," and I really, really freaking appreciate that. Aylor knows that when I first heard this album, I gave it a 7 out of 10, and I still feel that way right now. If I'd like Fantano this shit, strong 7 for freaking sure. Maybe I feel like it's gonna grow more fondly with me over time as I listen to it. And the last thing that I wrote is that what I like about this album is that I'm sincerely excited to share with music enthusiasts who claim they are hungry for a different sound from Black artists. And I don't say that to like kind of pigeonhole Benjamin Booker, like, oh, he makes different Black music. He makes Black music that only could have come from Benjamin Booker, And so like I like how like with little that I've heard from like the first 2 records, this really stands on its 2 feet. And it feels like I can't think of like another album. I've maybe heard one other album consistently this year. And like, I'm glad that like I made the time to listen to this. Like, this sounds like 2025. And so like, I really do hope that like it gets submitted for Grammy, like for the Grammys, or at least with some kind of like musical award when the time comes in like early 2026. Like, I don't know if Pitchfork has reviewed this shit, but it better be a good goddamn review. That's what we're doing first. Now, without further ado, Aylor, take the floor, my dog.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much for for your wonderful introduction, and really a lot of spectacular things that you had to say. And I can add that yes, Pitchfork has reviewed the album. I believe they gave it an 8. To really, like, I haven't completed reading their review, but actually, but like I read through like the first two paragraphs, like they have a pretty solid grasp on what makes the album so fascinating. And I think, okay, myself being a fan of Mr. Booker, going back to even I'd say going back to even like back in late 2013, even before he dropped his self-titled debut album. What has been fascinating to see about Mr. Booker has been his evolution of sorts, and his evolution, and especially with coming out of Witness, an album that really saw his attempt to really kind of mature his sound in a way that honestly, listening back to that album has aged even better than I ever could have anticipated. To it does just make me wonder, like it did make me wonder going into this album, how how was I gonna how what was I gonna really gonna feel from the Benjamin Booker that he wants to present to us in 2025. And listening to this album since it first came out, listen to this album subsequently later, I continue to be impressed with the direction he aimed for, and just how much in the end, him and Kenny Segal, another wonderful producer. You probably know him best for his work with Open Mike Eagle alongside Armin Hammer. um, they just absolutely stick the landing in terms of going in this bold direction. That in reading his Rolling Stones interview, he had mentioned how, like, an influence that he had been aiming for was Mob Deep and the Jesus and Mary Chain. And that kind of really and I definitely feel like, this album very much stands on its own, even without having to stand on the shoulders of the said influences. I will say, I don't I if we are lucky enough to speak with the man again, I will say, I don't know if it was intentional that LWA in the trailer park sounds kind of like Jesus and Mary Chain's A Taste of Cindy, which also from their Psycho Candy album, which Booker had listed as an influence. But yes, you do get this feeling that, alongside with having Mr. Segal on production, they are really kind of trying to go into a bold direction, and the amount of times they stick the landing is just quite spectacular, I have to say. I mean, Black Ops, man, if there was Black Ops, what a way to introduce it. What a way to introduce this album. Like, just the discorded noise that Segal is providing. The very I would say the very kind of solemn delivery that, Booker has always been good at delivery, but there's just something about how it's even way more eerie now. There's a way more eerie vulnerability that is just so much through this album. And Booker had mentioned how, like, at the time when he was living in Australia, kind of just trying to start, as the world was going through its own kind of thing, and he was in a bit of a transition of his own, starting a family and all those things, and so by all means, this is a record that's very much a byproduct of our past 5 years, and yet I can't think of an album that I granted I admit I'm from the outside looking in, but I can't think of an album that probably best encapsulates the Trump 2.0 world we are currently in right now. I mean, with something, with something like Black Ops, where it's like, where there is just this, the lyrics are just very direct in terms of this kind of hopelessness that people are feeling, right now. This oppressive, aggressive hopefulness that people are feeling right now, and just this kind of question of how do you go through, how do you like continue to continue to persevere through all of that, of course. And once again, and speaking on LWA in the trailer park, which and yes, Chris, you were absolute, and by the way, Chris, absolutely right when he said that the story behind the song is very heroin, very much a downer. And I say the only reason I would comment on the story behind the burn that song as particularly fascinating is that he said that the story behind the song, if you've ever seen the film My Girl, which I have, and I literally own that movie on Blu-ray. The traumatic climax of that film. Yeah, that's all. That's all. Yeah, and but yes, it does kind of go into what I kind of respect about Booker, where that he is really continuing to deal with the darker unsettling things in our reality, which are just far more realer than we would like really kind of give attention to. Slow dancing in a gay bar, another song which I thought was absolute wonderful. And I'm glad that you quite liked it as well. You mentioned how that kind of connection that you're feeling in terms of like really wanting, so really desiring a kind of human connection and stuff like that. And as someone I've seen listened to the song countless times, saw the music, seen the music video, really cool music video. Has a very I let the man himself know it had a very David Lynch like quality. But also as someone who has had the pleasure of right before the COVID lockdown situation getting like very, very real, like I have this like right before that, perhaps like my last real true blue memory of like what life was like right before that was hanging around my old neighborhood bar, and just being there, and very much and I would say, and this man can absolutely confirm, because I think I was like texting him that night. A lot of the feelings I was definitely feeling at that time, even before the whole lockdown situation happened. Very much. If you want to listen, if you listen to those lyrics, very much very much what I was kind of feeling at that time. And I guess it just kind of speaks to that kind of oddity of like how, us being in these kind of social settings while having to deal with our own personal isolation, and but always kind of gambling on this notion that, that some miracle can happen that can separate us from our current isolation. And man, what a night that was. I mean, like, it felt like I was like the only one who kind of understood that, like, this COVID thing was going to be like really bad. Like, people were partying without a care in the world that night, and I was just in my own corner. But rants about my personal life for a different day. But well, once again, in speaking about like how much I love how Kenny and Benjamin are complementing each other. I think, Pompeii statues is just a wonderful, brilliant example of that, and it shows the continued musical evolution that Booker has been pushing for. The I don't know if I don't like I don't know if like the chords on if he's like playing minor chords on his guitar or something like that, but the off kilter tone that creating with his guitar. And as well as also just the direct aggressiveness of the drums and everything, and with a chorus that, like, man, I mean, when a song that, I swear, if Booker had been an artist back in the 90s, man, this would absolutely I this could absolutely have been a hit. I mean, because, like, going deeper into darkness, that is a chorus every discordant, like, 90s kid who adored Smashing Pumpkins would have been singing along to. And yet, once again, speaks so well to this kind of reality that we're kind of living in right now, where it's like, where it feels like everything bad that can happen just keeps on happening. It just keeps happening, and it's kind of becoming this situation of, like, what grand, like, no matter how bad you imagine things can get, they somehow just keep getting worse. They somehow just keep getting worse. And once again, when I say that this album kind of came at the most appropriate time, like, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, yeah, I mean, come on, I don't even have to tell you to look at the news or something. I mean, geez.
Turn them off if you
Gee.
can.
Yeah, quite so, right? So, and and okay, and one thing I've been mentioning about, once again, Kenny's production, and how much it's been really work really complements what Booker has been going to, uh what Booker is really going into musical wise. And I think it absolutely reaches a even beautiful high point on songs like New World, Show and Tell, where you really do feel, like, once again Booker, like, very much playing on his own strengths in terms of his blues, his blues background, and and Kenny's skeletal production, really creating something that, once again, like plays just so well. I mean, like I think there was the hook. It's always was the hook on show and tell that like really was when I knew that he had really landed. No, not like no, actually not the hook. The second verse, and I'm waiting for the future, for the hidden you and me's, for the light in us, for the love in us, for the brightness to peak. And if there's something that I think, especially when you compare this album to Witness, which we just might end up speaking about sometime in the future. Not making too big promises for our regular listeners, but the fascinating thing about comparing Lower to his second album, Witness, is that Witness was also an album that very much kind of delved into the chaoticness of the times we were living in, and just wondering where you kind of fit in all that chaos. Whereas Lower is an album that just completely understands that all hope is kind of gone, but we still kind of have to cling to it anyway. But we've also accepted that like so much of the worst that we thought could be possible, it's not that it's already happened, but we're still living with it like right now. It's why I think I think it's why I think on same kind of lonely, them editing in like with people and brutalizing them, thought was an absolute genius decision on that album. Like, it's the album just constantly kind of confronting you with us living through the worst of the worst, and just like not really, and in a way that's like, okay, in a way that I'm not saying that you don't see other artists. I don't want to be all like waving my finger and being like, well, why aren't other artists, being more political? Why aren't they talking more about this and that and this and that? But it's like, but you see it, but you're hearing someone do it so directly, do it so effortlessly, in general, and it just kind of makes you wonder, like, man, I really wish the industry could be just a tad bit more, tad bit less risk averse as of now.
If I may.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought up like the gunshots in Same Kind of Lonely, because in addition to hearing the gunshots, we also hear the sound of a baby. And I thought of some of my friends back home when like that plane crash occurred in my city some time ago. Everyone hit the group chat, yo, is Chris okay? And I'm like, hey, thanks for asking. I'm fine, but it's pretty sad. It's pretty bad what happened over here. And we all started talking about just like the state of affairs. And all of a sudden, our good friend is like, hey, the baby will be here soon. Because like one of our good friends and like his wife were expecting, and it just immediately like just lightened the mood. Because I'm like, things are pretty bad and they could get worse. But I don't care, because my friends deserve to raise their child in a world of hope. Like, their child deserves to have opportunities that I may have not had at my age at that time. I want to protect my friend's family, and I'm willing to do almost anything to preserve their way of life. Like, I don't have a lot of friends who like kind of like figured it out or won at life. But like I'm more than willing to like just like embrace the same kind of lonely, to make sure that like they can just know the peace that they have fought their entire lives to have, And like we were like, oh, when's the baby coming? When's the baby coming? He was like, oh, by Valentine's Day. And we were all just like, yo, that's so freaking poetic. And so it's like, oh, great. Like, we'll just like keep y'all in our prayers. We'll be thinking about y'all. And like the baby came early. It was like, hey, good morning. He's here. And we were like, oh my God, man. And so I've never been more happy to just like be back home at some point, drop off a care package. Like I still want to like give them time with the kid, but it's just like, I'm thinking of y'all, and just like, I'm so proud of the two of them for just like having this chance to like do something new together. And just in this period of just like, when literally just like the powers that be want to like just like spread their misery all over the place. And you mentioned how like hope is like all but gone in a time like this. But this record, I would say, dares us just like, if like say like hope is like a balloon falling into like this, like if you let go of your balloon, it'll fly away. Hold on to your balloon. Like just catch the string at the last minute and just like hold on to it. Like if it's like the wind is blowing, if like the winds of misery are blowing towards your balloon, hold on to that shit. Like they're not made of lead, they're not heavy. You just gotta hold on a little bit. Maybe someone like, ooh, let me help you there. You know what I'm saying? Like people want to help, and like again, like I'm very just like, as whenever I listen to like a new thing, it's like, oh, like I can share this record with other people and not worry about like, oh, like they're gonna think it's too strange, like think it's too weird, like they're not like the vocals. No, like Benjamin Booker's a good singer. There's guitar. There's like hip hop drums. Like it's got everything you need. That's why I make sure I added that before I let you continue.
Oh, and thank you so much, and thank you so much for and actually, honestly, thank you so much for adding that, because I think what you just said, and yes, I can also speak to being very worried about Chris when I heard the news about the plane crash and all of that, but I. And granted, I don't want to like I don't want to psychoanalyze demand too much, but I think these are things that Mr. Brooker is also like really wrestling with as well. Now especially if there's one major difference between this and the last record. I mean, the man the man having his own family now, and so I think as much as he's being honest about the negativity, the negativity, and just the darkness of our current reality. I think it makes complete sense, and I think it's all the more speaks to the evolution of Mr. Brooker, that the final track is hope for the nighttime, and a hope that he is being completely legit about. And and I guess if we are lucky to speak with that man, again, I guess I do want to, I would compare this along with the final track from Witness, all is well, a final song that was also very much about that the difficulty of having to confront present negativity with still trying to hope for something better. But whereas that song, and there's a longer story with that song well, granted, I'd much prefer the man himself to kind of delve into, but whereas that song was like 2 minute, was like roughly around 2 minutes, and has lyrics like I made excuses all my life, and stuff like that. You have Hope for the Nighttime, which is, I'd say perhaps is probably the closest song that I would say that feels somewhat reminiscent of like the Witness era, with back in vocals joining him in a kind of almost I would say almost like soulful gospel way, though as soulful and as gospel as you can get with Kenny Segal production. But it's a hope that he's not speaking on it ironically. He's very much it's like it's very much a song that confronts like, yes, things suck, things are absolutely dismal, but people still have to wake up the next day. And what world are we going to let them wake up to? And I think what works about this album. It's very honest and confronting that things absolutely suck right now. But when you wake up, what steps are you going to make? Are you going to make to alleviate that suffering? And I think it's all the more and I think it's all the more reason why I think this album is another quality output from the man himself. An album that I like. I think Danny, serious music listener, music critic out there, she should absolutely put it on their top ten list, if not number one itself. And I think it's an album. I think it's an album that shows that all like nearly a decade after his last album, Mr. Booker still shows that he has a lot to say, and I'm very thankful that we are getting to hear what he has to say. And and I hope that we can improve our world for many reasons, but I guess one of the many reasons is so we can create a world where Mr. Booker still has a lot of more interesting things to say about this world. And I think we're nearly an hour into talking about it, but hey, I say, guys, just go listen to the album, man. I think we're trying to put as much justice into what makes this album work. But at the end of the day, hey, my people, just go listen to the album. It's it's kind of goes beyond explanation at this point.
I think it's a good place to wrap it up, if I'm honest. And then, so like we said in the start of the stream, if you go to the description, you can find Benjamin Booker's website. Check it out. Follow him on socials. He just finished a tour. For the record, he may go out in the fall. Go see this man play. I would encourage you to buy this record before you stream it, if you're able to do so. Like, if you get the CD, you don't like it, give it to a friend. Donate to your local library. You get the vinyl, sell it to another record store. Someone else might pick that up. You know what I'm saying? Like, support actual media. Like, these DSPs aren't paying out like a penny, literally, for streams these days. Go pick up some merch. Like, like the sun's out. The guns are out. You want some new drip? Ben got drip for y'all. We got new music from other artists in the description. We got mutual aid. I have a link to rescue.org in the description. Like, as I usually put, there are troubles in at least like 15 other nations, and I like to acknowledge them just here and now. So like we speak of why like hope is still dwindling in these days, because we stand with like the nations of Yemen, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Ethiopia, Niger, Somalia, Mali, Myanmar, Burkina Faso, Darfur, South Sudan, Ghana, Hawaii, Bangladesh, Lebanon, Cuba, Nigeria, Northern Kurdistan, Sierra Leone, and Palestine. Free my mans. The guy that just grabbed up in Columbia University, revoked his green card. Free that man. I'm gonna Google his name right now because I hate that I haven't memorized it yet. I just put him in my freaking Instagram story. I'm sorry, I'm kind of like doing a thing here because I think it's important to like punctuate this moment while we still have a chance to do so. So as far as like this channel is concerned. Oh God, is it still here? It's not. Oh, Mita, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. In fact, let me actually search on it myself, man, because
Mahmoud Khalil.
one,
Mahmoud Khalil.
yeah,
Like, oh, yo,
yes, thank you so much.
who's that? James Baldwin said that all the children of the world are ours. We have a responsibility to them to like give them clean air, clean water to drink, and good food to eat, and like a safe place to sleep at night. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Someone's got to change these diapers. Someone's going to rock them back to bed. You know what I'm saying? Someone's got to like teach them their ABCs and their 1, 2, 3s. We all have a role to play, and some of us get to be artists. So we'll be here to like talk about that art. Someone's got to take these kids to the museum. You know what I'm saying? Tell them the important to encourage them to like make their own art and things of that nature. So you know, pick your role. There's one for you. If you're here live right now, there's a role for you to play. Can't wait to see what that is. We'll hopefully be back sometime this month. And hey, Alor, thank you for joining us today. Stay your behind in Africa, because I'm coming to visit. Okay, like to the folks who gave my dog a job, keep him on. I don't want him coming home anytime soon until it's like actually like, oh, you got to come back. I don't want you to come home until I'm begging you to come home. I'm happy you like got a chance to be back, like be back with family, and please give them my best regards. Take us out of here, man. Tell goodbye. Say goodbye to the people. Thank you to Mr. Benjamin Booker for putting out a new record. Like, we really, really freaking like it. We're not just saying that because we met you. We listened to that John over and over again. And I hope that, again, I'm passing it to my siblings. I'm passing it to Haystack. We sending it to the whole squad. So cheers to you, homie.
Oh yes, and hey, thank you so much for organizing this thing for us to get to have this conversation. And yeah, and yes, and so much has been happening. So much has been happening since the last time. Um, Chris and I shared a screen together, and so much has been happening. And so much hasn't happened in just this past few weeks. We have sadly lost so many wonderful musical pioneers. Yeah, rest well to Warriors. Rest well to David Johansen. Rest well. I mean, dang man, we lost Angie. We lost Angie Stone, man, and and I guess. I don't, and I get, and there, and certain of these artists were folks who I guess you could say we could have done a better job in giving them their flowers while they were still here. And I know, like with Angie, she was unfortunately dealing with some issues with her record label because I don't know, of course, y'all were there when that Uptown Funk like track was happening and stuff like that. But what y'all probably don't know is Uptown Funk kind of like sampled a track she did way back in the 70s. Because here's the thing about Miss Angie Stone. When we talk about hip hop, we got to talk about her, because while the Sugar Hill Gang might have like released what is now considered like the first major hip hop track ever put on record, it was Angie Stone's crew that put out the second one on the same record label, by the way. And there's this line that Angie Stone said, where she says, "We're gonna funk you, get on up. We're gonna funk you, get on up." And and Miss Stone was. And like I don't want to turn this into like an I hate Bruno Mars and Mark Ronson rant, even though I'm going to be honest, my respect for both men are not in the highest. My respect for both men are not in the highest place at this moment. But it really kind of hurts that, like, man, that I guess in terms of this art that we love, that there's so many people who do not get who do not get their proper acknowledgement, do not get their proper recognition, do not get their proper monetary deservement. Universal, y'all gonna hold the L on
Cut
that
the
one.
check.
So I guess if there's one thing I can say among the many others, it's like, dude, like, give people their flowers while they're still here, okay? You know, and and okay, and granted, we wanted to talk about this record, just because we love this record, but I mean, I don't know how many reviews on this record, well, like video reviews I've seen so far. I think we
I've seen a
might be
few.
the second.
There
We
should be
might be
more.
the second one, and this isn't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this is an album that came out since like January. So and so like so show your appreciation to the art that you guys love. I think I don't know. I don't want to get into too much of a rant about just the terribleness of our times and stuff like that, but I think I don't know. We have a tendency to elevate so much BS, man. I think maybe we should do a better job in elevating the things that actually work, that we actually find constructive in our lives, such as this album. I don't know. Just saying. Just saying. Mm. But all that aside, it's been a pleasure being here. It's a pleasure being back with this man, partners in crime and all that. And Chris will be continuing to give you guys wonderful videos with wonderful people where they're talking about many of the lovely arts that has helped elevated their lives. So hey, man, give the man his views, man. Like he delivers the quality consistent. He delivers the quality consistently, man.
Well, that's very, very kind. In addition to like all the cool things I talked about earlier, Benjamin Booker, rescue.org, mutual aid, you'll find a link to an A. Allure video essay. Please check that out. Please like it. Please leave a comment so we can keep doing this. We appreciate you. We love you. Even if you can't even say it to yourself, we love you in the most platonic, supportive way possible. That's A. Allure. I'm Ham Kavina, the Princess of Port Richmond. First of her name, long shall she reign. Thank you to Raw. We love you. And we'll be back sometime soon. Have a great week, and thank you for your time. Say bye, Allure.
Goodbye.